Good morning, everybody. My name is Sofia Martinez, and I'll be presenting our 2021 science fair. This science fair will be a little bit different because we're not going to do like experiments or that stuff, but we're going to talk about apologetics. Apologetics is the defense of the faith. So our goal here is to make you guys aware of everything that's happening involving evolution, and for you not to feel like dumb because of believing in creationism, and we're here to deny the Big Bang theory and the evolutionist theory that involves it. Okay. So welcome, and let's start with this. So Peter chapter 3, 15 says, command us to defend our faith, or to be ready to defend our faith. So this is what we're doing here. So there has always been two like ways of thinking that are always debating for the reason. That is the evolutionist theory, that everything comes from a Big Bang and then we evolved from a monkey to what we know as human now. And the creationist theory, that is that we have been all created by God. This is mainly based on Genesis chapter 1:1, that says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so let's ask ourselves 4 crucial questions. Who am I, and why do I have value? Where do I come from? Why am I here? And where will I go when I die? So if we're willing to ask this in an evolutionism way, there'll be something like this. What am I, and why am I worth it? So everything was created from nothing. So according to this theory, you were a little bacteria that evolved from a monkey that evolved into a human. So that's what you are, a monkey, I guess. Where do I come from? So that nothing. That's where you came from. Nothing. Why are we here? We don't know. According to evolutionism, there's no reason to you being here. There's no purpose. Where will I go when I die? Back with the bacteria. That's just how it is. So now let's answer these questions in a creationism way. What am I, and why am I worth it? So you're the son of God. Therefore, you're worth something because God created you. Where do I come from? You come from God, from His image. Why am I here? We all have a purpose to our lives because we were created with a purpose. So you are here to achieve that purpose. Where will I go when I die? To heaven, or in worst case scenario, to death, to hell. So about lives. Why are people still teaching us evolution when we know it's not probable and it breaks scientific laws? So it's like almost impossible for it to happen. When you tell a lie, you have to tell a little bit of truth in it. So people will believe the little bit of truth in it, therefore they will believe the lie. For example, rat poison. So rat poison is in fact 0.005% poison and 99.995% good food. Will it kill the rat? Yes, but only if the rat ate a lot of it. Can it kill it? Yes, not as efficient. Does it have poison? Yes, it does, but not as we want it to. So, okay, let's say nothing exploded. It just exploded, and it created us. It's like crazy to think we all come from an improbable explosion, right? So, as evolution cannot be proven because no one was there to see the big explosion and everything evolving, it is considered a religion. Because even with scientific laws that disprove theory, people still believe in this. Therefore, it can be considered a religion. So now my friends will continue to deny this theory. I hope you like my introduction. It's a little bit long, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Juan David, and I will keep this going with what Sofia was saying. I will talk to you about evolution, okay? The age of the Earth. If you look for the age of the Earth in Google, you'll find this number, 4.5 billion years. This is a lot of time. But today we will prove you with science that this is wrong. This is not true. So, what is evolution? Evolution is the gradual change or transformation of something. But the word evolution has another meanings, and I will explain it. The cosmic evolution is the first meaning. This is the origin of time, matter, and space, the Big Bang. The second meaning of the word is the chemical evolution, and is the origin of higher elements from hydrogen. From hydrogen. But there's a problem here, because if Big Bang exploded, it only created hydrogen and helium. But then where did the other 105 elements came from? We don't know. Also, there's a problem here because we need stars to make these elements and these elements to make stars. So we don't know which came first. The other problem here is that no one has ever seen how a star is born. No one. But we have seen them die, because they die every 30 years. The other meaning of the word evolution is stellar and planetary evolution, and it's the origin of planets and stars. The fourth meaning is the organic evolution, and it's the origin of life. Life begins from a non-living material. How is that possible? It's not possible. The fifth meaning is the macroevolution, and it's changing from one kind into another, like dogs. We see there are a lot of dog races all over the world, but they're still being dogs, no matter what race is the dog. The last meaning of the word evolution is the microevolution, and it's variation within kinds. This is the only one that has been observed by humans, and we can see an example of this in insects. Now, humanists regard the universe is as self-existing, not created. But we see the same word, universe. It's composed by uni, that means single, and verse, that is a spoken sentence. Now, I will show you a spoken sentence, and we can find it in the Bible. And God said, "Let there be light." That is a spoken sentence. That makes sense. Now, according to Lemaitre, the Big Bang was a few light years in diameter. Those are 12 trillion miles. That's a lot. Then, in 1965, that figure was reduced to 275 million miles. Then in 1972, it was reduced to 71 million miles, then to 54,000 miles, and then into 1,000,000,000,000 times the diameter of a proton, and now nothing. According to that, the universe began from nothing. All we see and all we know came from nothing. That's not possible. How is that something that was not there because it was nothing exploded and created all we see? Now I want to talk to you about the conservation of angular momentum. This states that if something is spinning clockwise, for example, and then it explodes, the pieces that fly off are going to spin clockwise, according to that law. But we know that there are moons and planets and galaxies that spin counterclockwise. So that doesn't make sense. Now ask yourself this. If the world was created by natural causes and everything we know was created by chance, then why did Jesus die in the cross? What was the point of dying for a world that was created by natural causes? No sense. Now, the second law of thermodynamics states that everything tends to be disordered. All in this world tends to be disordered by itself. For example, you can see this beautiful lady. We can add 70 years, then she's old. Then in 4,000 years, then she becomes dust. Now, this is because we can see an example of the second law of thermodynamics here. Everything is in order, and then as the time goes on, everything tends to be disordered. The universe is getting more disorderly according to this law. We can see an example of this in our rooms. If we let it alone for a lot of time, then everything will be disordered. All we have to do to witness this is nothing. Now, evolutionists say that this law can be surpassed by adding some energy, but this is not possible. This is not possible because universe is a closed system and adding energy will be destructive without a complex system to harness the energy. The only system we can see that can harness this energy is the plant cell. It's the plant cell. It's the only complex system that can do this. And that's all.
Hello everyone, my name is Sara Castillo and I'll be explaining how evolution in the classroom has affected the impact of our culture and minds throughout the years. So, the beginnings of a fairy tale. As you know, evolution begins with millions and millions and millions of years ago, and we don't know exactly how much this is correct. And it's concerning, right? I mean, due to evolution establishing that the universe can continue to exist without you and that you are but a molecule inside it that evolved from nothing, came from nothing, so you basically mean nothing. And you can see this by the rise of words in the scientific textbooks and magazines. I mean, governments, education systems have been meddling in this, so evolution is pushed into our curriculum. And this was not only exclusive to the United States, but also to the world in general. For context, 1963, Cold War, War of Vietnam, space race, those were all cultural impacts that changed the way people started to view evolution theory and creationism as well. But as you can see, this didn't bring positive results. The decrease in SAT total scores, an exam that is required by everyone to take in the United States, HIV cases rising up when it was introduced in 1969, as well as premarital sex, children born outside of wedlock. These are all statistics that happened after 1963 and after 1969, especially when the United States officially enrolled evolution into our curriculum. Now, following this, please welcome my friend Camilo, who will be explaining about the age of the Earth. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, my name is Ivan Camilo Sanchez, and I'm going to explain why the universe can have a billion of years like the scientific book says. We're going to start explaining that the Bible don't say a specific date of creation. In the Bible don't say the specific creation of the world, but an Irish archivist says that calculates the generations, the human generations in the Genesis book, and the result is that the earth born, if we can say that, the earth born the 22nd of October, the 22nd of October of 1440. So we can say if the earth, the date of the earth. Now we're going to do that. I'm going to explain two proofs that the earth can't have billion of years. One is that the nucleus of the earth in this moment is hot. It's like chemical things. The nucleus of the earth is hot. If the earth have billion of years, the nucleus of the earth will be cold. And if the nucleus is cold, in the earth don't exist any rotation or any type of gravity. So it's necessary that the nucleus is hot. And the second proof that the earth can have billion of years is that in a scientific book called Biology and Diversity says that the life starts in like a chemical soap of creating by a condensation vapor produced by the oceans in this moment, the oceans, if we can say that. But this proof have a problem. In this book, in the same book, Diversity and Biology, never says the form that creates the life. They just say the life appear with any reason or any chemical component. No, they just appear. That is something stupid. They don't have any evidence or something like that. So we can't comprove this theory like a real theory. For last one, the human body has some similitudes with the nature and the universe. For example, our fingerprints are so similar to, for example, if you cut a tree, the lobe have little rings, lines rings, that are so similar to this with our fingerprints. Another similitude, for example, is that our brains are so similar with a live pin when it falls. They are like the same thing. It's no could be some coincidence, something like that. Something created, and something created, it's the God, our God. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Maria Camila, and today I'm going to talk about the evolution theory. Specifically, I'm going to give you guys proof about how it can be wrong. Now, if you believe in the evolution theory that man has been here for about 3 million years, that will mean that the population today would be crowded. Let's say we would be like ants in a small world. The world would be tiny for all of us. We wouldn't be able to walk because the population will be more than expected. Now, that's not true because, as you can see today, we have space and our environment. That can be another proof about how the evolution theory is wrong. Now, today's population shows that we have been here for about 5,500 years. Okay, based on DNA studies, the theory about the population reduction, like a genetic bottleneck. We can conclude this as population reduction, people being erased from Earth, or explosion, volcanoes, how you can guys see here. Supernova. What is a supernova? I like to call it a dead star because when a star dies, it turns or explodes into a supernova. Astronomers have observed that about every 30 years a star dies and turns or explodes into a supernova. Why are there less than 300 supernova, dead stars? Because it haven't been that long. Now, Are the stars wrong or the evolution theory? Okay, Jupiter. Jupiter is cooling off rapidly. It cannot be billions of years old because it will have been cooled by now. That's another reason, that's another proof. Now, Jupiter's moon Ganymede has a strong magnetic field. Another reason why it cannot be billions of years old. Now, Saturn rings. Saturn rings are unstable. They are getting away from the Earth, and that makes it not billions of years old. Okay, the moon is getting further from the Earth every day. That means it used to be closer. Oh God. Okay. That would be a problem. Why? Because the moon caused tides. If the Earth was closer to the moon, the tides would be higher, and it wouldn't let us lift. So, the fact alone led us our existence in less than 1.4 billion years. Why? Let's say there was a contact between the moon and the Earth 1.4 billion years ago. Then, if I'm being exact, we have a less life expectancy than 1.2. Okay, short period comets are losing material and have a life expectancy of about 10,000 years. Why are they still here? If according to the evolution theory, we have lived more than 10,000 years. This is another proof about us not living that long. Now, why they have a life expectancy? Let's say I have a job or a business, and every time I'm losing money. That would mean that at a point I will have no money at all. That's what happened to the short period comets. They are losing material, and that's why they have a life expectancy. Now, does the Bible match evolution? It doesn't. They are completely opposite. Here are some examples about how they are opposite. I can give you this. Bible says God created man. God created everything, and God is everything, right? But the evolution says man created God. This is just one example of the many you can see here, and there are more than this. So yeah. The magnets are getting weaker every time. That means they used to be stronger. Earth's magnetic strength has declined 10% in the last 150 years and 40% in the last 1,000. This led us not having these billions of years ago. It says 25,000 max. Okay. The Earth is rotating, but it's slowing down. That means it used to be going faster, right? Now, we wouldn't have been able to live in a world where the Earth was rotating faster. The fact alone let us know that we weren't there in the Earth at those times. Now, the spin of the Earth caused the Coriolis effect. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Miguel Ángel Escorce, and we're going to continue talking about the denial of the evolution theory. Okay, well, you have been thought about, the geologic column, these rock layers that have different ages. For example, the Devonian, which is 300 millions of years old. Well, I can prove you that this is wrong. Okay, all around the world, many vertical trees, petrified vertical trees, have been found connecting these layers. If these layers are millions of years old, then how can a single petrified tree connect these two layers? That doesn't make sense. Here is an example in Nova Scotia, Canada, or another example in Cookeville, Tennessee. This also disproves the scientific fact about petrification and fossilization that says that it takes millions of years to fossilize an animal or petrify a tree or something. We can see an example here. A poor mother ichthyosaur that was giving birth and was fossilized while giving birth. And giving birth does not take like millions of years. It takes a few moments. Also, this cowboy boot that still has the cowboy leg inside for cowboy is petrified. And I don't think millions of years ago dinosaurs could make a boot. Or also this petrified hat. Okay, now let's talk about the sediments of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River deposits sediments at a rate of 80,000 tons an hour. Okay, after they observed this delta that was growing and growing because of the sediments deposits, they said, okay, this delta, for all this mud in this delta to be deposited, it had to take 30,000 years to accumulate this mud in the delta. Okay, then I ask you a question. Why isn't all the Gulf of Mexico full of mud? If the Earth has millions of years, why does it take only 30,000 years? It doesn't make sense. What about all the millions of years? Doesn't make sense. Well, I have a theory. 6,000 years ago, God created everything. Then 4,400 years ago was the flood. And with the flood, all this mud came to this delta of the Mississippi River. And that's why it seems that it took 30,000 years, but in fact, it only took like 20 minutes, and then the 4,400 years after that. Okay. The rocky ledge above Niagara Falls has been eroding for nearly 9,900 years. Okay, that's what it says in the Whole Earth Science, one of the most used scientific books in the United States for educating the kids. Well, they know this because the mechanism of erosion, erosion is when the river flows and breaks the stone, it rolls backwards, okay? It's easy to understand. The Niagara Falls Museum said that per year, the Niagara Falls erodes 4.7 feet. Okay. In 1841, Charles Lyell visited the falls. And he said, okay, the falls are now here, and they started probably over here. And it took like 10,000 years to erode all this way. He said that it eroded 3 feet per year. But that doesn't seem like that, because the Niagara Falls are now here, where you see that arrow. That's too much for what he said. He said 3 feet per year, but in like 200 years, the Niagara Falls are now here. That's a lot. So what happened with that, It's pretty weird. So I can give you 2 proofs that they are wrong, and the Niagara Falls hadn't been eroding for nearly 9,900 years. First of all, they did the wrong calculation because they used 4 feet instead of 4.7 feet, so that's wrong. And the second proof is that if the Earth, again, has millions of years, why hasn't the Niagara Falls eroded all the way back to the Lake Erie? why only 9,900 years? The Earth has millions of years, so why is it been eroding only 9,900 years? That doesn't make sense. Well, I have again another theory. Well, 6,000 years ago, God created everything, then was the flood, and the flood with, was a lot of water over the earth, and this eroded all this. And that's why it seems like it takes 9,900 years, but in fact, it takes much less, like 20 minutes, and then the 4,400 years after that. Okay? Now we're going to talk about the salinity of these oceans. Well, as you know, with precipitations, the rivers came with minerals, salt minerals, to the oceans, and that gives the oceans the salt. So the oceans are getting saltier. The oceans could have gone from fresh water to 3.6% salt in less than 5,000 years. So what happened with that? What about the millions of years? That's one thing. The other is, what about the animals? Okay, I can give you a response to that. Again, 6,000 years ago, God created everything. Then 4,400 years ago was the flood. And with the flood, because before the flood, the water wasn't salt water, was fresh water. Well, the flood happened. And then after the flood, all these 4,400 years, the ocean was becoming more saltier. And you could say, but what about the animals? Because, as you know, freshwater animals can survive in salt water. Well, first of all, you're assuming that the flood was salt water, and no, the flood was fresh water, more probably. And after this flood, it began to rain, and with the rain, the minerals came from the mountains with the rivers. Second, the ocean animals, the freshwater animals, had to adapt to these new conditions. As an example, we have freshwater crocodiles and saltwater crocodiles. And you could say, well, but that's evolution, and that's not. That's not true, because changing from a crocodile, from a freshwater crocodile to a saltwater crocodile, is a minor change. The crocodile is still a crocodile, it's the same animal. It's not, for example, a monkey who changed to a human, or a bacteria that changed to a human. So they're very different. Literally, you are saying that a rock changed into a croc.
Hi, my name is Mateo Peraza. I have the pleasure to explain something new to you today. We have talked about the evolution, the age of the earth, we have talked about the flood, we have talked about how humans lived before. But there's still a question that we have to answer. What about cavemen? You can see the actual flood. You can see how the Garden of Eden was before, or you weren't there when they started teaching evolution. But you can touch the different fossils. You can touch, because this feels like evidence. But today I'm going to prove you that it's not. First of all, we have to see what is the definition of cavemen. The second, many people in the Bible live in caves. For example, Lot and his daughters in Genesis chapter 19, verse 30. The 5 kings that are found hid in the cave at Makkedah, Joshua chapter 10, verse 17. And the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds, like Josh chapter 6, verse 2. Now, let's continue. This is the world's most wanted caveman, for example. So this is another former caveman that we can see right there. So there are a lot of people that are considered cavemen between colons, but that's not the measure that we're going to speak about today. First of all, as my beloved friend Sarah said, it feels like someone is trying to make a monkey out of us. They started teaching us that we are monkeys. They started teaching that we came from these past ancestors, and they start saying a lot of different things. With the evolution, it comes a change of thinking, and that leads to a change in behavior, as we said before. For example, new scientists say that humans should talk like chimps. you know, that if we have like this type of communication, they said that we will have better communication. It will be easier for us to get in the same topic. It sounds not that stupid, you know, but we're talking about these kind of things right now. The things that science says are right, and maybe we think that can be wrong. Let's start with the Evolution's Hall of Fame. This is pretty interesting. I want your attention, please. The first thing is the Nebraska Man. These have been used as a proof of evolution in a lot of textbooks during 40 years, if I'm not wrong. The Nebraska Man was a mislink or an ancestor of us in ancient times. The thing is that the fossil that came from Nebraska Man was used just one foot. This little foot that you see here was the thing that they inspired to make the entire skeleton of Nebraska Man. But you know, they feel like he shouldn't be alone, so they even have the audacity to make him a wife. They make a wife out of the tooth with no piece of evidence, with anything they could look or search for. However, with just one tooth was enough to make a whole 2 different fossils of 2 different living beings, and in a really short period of time. But this is just the start. Please give me your attention. This is the real Nebraska Man. The tooth that people were inspired to make the fossil of Nebraska Man was actually a pig's tooth that was dead in a normal farm, just a normal pig who was made to be a normal meal. So when people ask you who is your ancestor or who is your grandpa, you can say that it's a pig or Peppa Pig if you prefer it. Let's continue with the Evolution's Hall of Fame. Now, the Down Man of Pildur, also known as Pildur Man. Sorry. Down Man. Pildur Man was found in 1912 and was used as a proof of Darwin's theory of evolution. How we know he was a mislink or a past ancestor of us. However, when we look at the Pildur Man, we find some interesting things about it. For example, wait a second. For example, that he's a half donkey. People use a human cranium, a human skull, and a donkey jaw, and that was the way they made the Nebraska Man. They were saying that he was slowly turning from an ape, you know, from a donkey to an ape. He was slowly turning from an ape to a human, and that jaw was the actual proof. But it's actually 2 different things and 2 different beings that are made for 2 different bodies. It's not evidence, it's a lie. Let's continue with our famous Evolution's Hall of Shame. Now, everybody knows this, no? The famous Neanderthal or the famous mislink, how we know it? The famous Neanderthal or man of caves, the original man of caves, it was a man that was turning from a monkey to a human. Their argument for saying that he was turning from an ape to a human is that apes walking in their 4 extremities, so he was slowly turning from corp down to up. But he wasn't a monkey turning into a human. He was an old man with arthritis, and that's the reason why he was curving down. He wasn't going up, he was going down. And I'm going to tell you a reason. Give me a second. First of all, his brain was 13% bigger than the modern man's today. That is not proof of evolution, or that is not proof that he's going forward. That's proof that he's going backwards. Also his bones were stronger than a normal man, and he was stronger and healthier than a normal man today. But that's not the reason we're speaking right now. Why does he was an old man with arthritis? And look at the proof right here. Wait a second. I'm sorry. This is the skull of the Neanderthal. There is a story about this skull, very interesting. I'm going to speak it to you. Give me a second. After examining the famous Rhodesian man or broken heel man Neanderthal skull, Dr. Cuoso said, and I'm quoting right here, "You must understand that this skull really cries out disease. The feet are badly decayed and the bones of the ball of the skull are extremely thick. There are many features that testify of acromegaly or excess secretion of growth hormone in adulthood." And I'm going to give you the explanation right here. He was an old man that lives a lot of time. Before the flu, people used to live longer. For example, this man The average age before the flood was 912 years. Today is from 70 to 80 years. He lived so much, and that's why his bones were thicker. That's why his skull was bigger, and the reason why he was turning from a monkey to a man was because he has arthritis. That's the reason. Now we're going to move to the next one. This one is really interesting, the one I'm talking about. I think that everyone knows the famous Cro-Magnon man. Cro-Magnon man, it was actually modern in every aspect. He can be used as a missing link. It's not been proven by non-scientific Christians, by non-Christian scientific, sorry. And it has proved that he is not a missing link. He's just a normal Homo sapien, and he's modern in every way. He doesn't have any changes, and he's not show any proof of being ancient or evolved. Now, let's continue with the Australopithecus africanus, also named Lucy. It was found by Raymond Dart in 1924 and proclaimed an intermediate link between apes and men. In 1973, South American geologists announced that the cave the skull was found, it was more than a third million years old. This means that the tongue skull could not be a missing link between apes and humans. It's not possible. They also didn't say that with that case they also found a lot of normally human bones that wasn't supposed to be there. The Afarensis, but people know her as Lucy. Lucy's actual skull is that three pieces that are seen right there. How is that from that three normal pieces you get a whole animal skull, or you get a whole skeleton even? However, they have the imagination and they were able to do it. Johansson is the name of the guy who found Lucy. He had gone to Africa on a grant to find a missing link, and he found Lucy 2 weeks before his grant money ran out. Maybe it was an inspiration, maybe desperation, only these guys know. The former argument for saying that Lucy is a missing link and is the piece that we found between monkeys and humans is this. Lucy's knee is declared from a normal knee, like us humans are also declared. The thing is that this is not really Lucy's knee, it's the Hayden knee, and it was found a year early 70 meters lower and over a mile away. National Geographic called it Lucy 5 times in November 1985, issue P593. So the argument was basically that Lucy's knee was like man's knee. Here you can see the difference. This is Lucy, this is us. But when you do the math, Lucy's knee perfectly fits with a normal ape's knee. It's not different. It's just the leg. I'll explain you why. These are the proofs of the knee. Every picture you can see it right here. He said the femur was angled, proving Lucy was becoming a human. See how it's angled? This is upward. This is supposed Lucy's leg, how Lucy's leg should work, and this is how an ape Lucy works. The thing is that there are apes that has also angled knees. For example, man, ape, and Lucy. 3 climbing monkeys has angled femurs too. You can see it in the picture right there. And they are not becoming more human for that. I'm pretty sure that if you see a monkey using an angled knee, you're not thinking that it's your relative or even your brother. That's another picture. And that's another picture. Lucy's knee was slightly bigger than a regular ape's tree. This is another argument that they use. Because it was slightly bigger, that means that she was becoming human. But that doesn't prove anything at all. The bones of the Clydesdale are slightly bigger than a regular horse. And that doesn't mean that he's becoming a truck or everything, you know? Now, also, big horses and little horses exist today. They are different in size from the bones of... They are different in size in different mammals. That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove that she is becoming a human. As we know, it's just a big lie. This is pictures from her feet. They supposedly found her footprints, but they doesn't have any bones of her feet at all, so it was impossible for them to even know or get the way that they were looking at it. You know, there is a Lucy statue on the National U.S. Museum, and I'm quoting the director of the museum. It's a complete misrepresentation, and I believe they know it's a misrepresentation. Professor David Benton, Washington University. Zoo officials have no plan to knuckle under. We cannot be updating every exhibit based on every new piece of evidence. We look at the overall exhibit and the impression it creates. We think the overall impression this exhibit creates is correct. So they criticize Christians for believing in God, and they are believing that, and they are believing and making things out where it wasn't supposed to be. Actually, Lucy is alive and well living in Sumatra. Lucy is a regular ape, and you can find it in Sumatra Zoo anywhere you want, any day you want. You can search it online. So the bones are not proof that we came from monkeys and we're becoming more humans or we're becoming better. The bones and fossils prove that humans can lie, and we should be ready for it. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Sebastian Sad, and today I will conclude this magnificent Science Day. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and bend the seed, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. This is a clear example of the previous verse. A teacher teaching lies about where we come from. No, we come from dinosaurs that evolved a monkey and then humans. No, this lie provokes the following: confusion among children. Because when you teaching science and religion simultaneously in schools, two sides of the same coin appears, or origin. Where we came from? Did we came from monkeys that evolved into humans, or did we came from God? The answer to this question is simple. We came from God and only from God. I will summarize. God made the world, God created the world, which means He's the owner of the world, so He can establish or make the rules, and we are guilty of breaking God's rules. In this case, the rules are the 10 commandments. I think everyone here knows it. Okay, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, honor your father and mother." And as imperfect beings, we will be punished, or we must find a substitute to take our place. That's where Christ comes in. The fire will not touch the ones in the water. God's judgment will not touch those in Christ. Before continue, I have a question for you. When you die, where would you go? Where? You will be dead for a long, long time. And all our whole life is a dash. Because think for a minute, how much time has passed without you even exist? Or how much time will pass when you die or after you die? So why not spend a bit of your life in Christ? Just a bit. You don't need to be a pope to stay with Christ. He's the way and He's the salvation. So my last question to you, it's: what on earth are you doing for heaven's sake?